Growing up, I drank the Kool-Aid of my parents' and community's beliefs. I made that belief system more important than my own needs and happiness. Looking back, I can't fault anyone for that, not even quote-unquote God. I now have clarity in decisions and choices I make. I'm fully engaged in finding joy in my life, in my own way, without the influence and construct of others. This is an uplifting discussion from there to now.
Hi, everyone. Today, we are talking about, let's talk about drugs, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
No,
I think it's actually
drugs,
sex, isn't it?
Okay. That's the title, right?
I've been singing that song with the word inserted, let's talk about drugs, because I did an experience a couple of weekends ago where I went to a rave, and I did probably, I don't even know what I did.
Don't admit that ever again.
Something super minute form that was a chemical that I will never do. In fact, it made, like, literally towards the end of the night, everything was in such slow motion. I was like, fuck this shit, let's get it over with.
I gotta go.
Can we end this now? And that's how I felt as I was driving here. It felt like everything was in slow motion. And I thought, how ironic.
Oh, you're feeling the same feelings.
Thanks.
So I've got Beverly with us, who is an experienced person in the drug world, hypothetically.
Hypothetically speaking,
And
you would be right.
I've got Koby Tanlin with us, who is the owner of Fusion Pharmacy. And he really is in the pharmaceutical world, but also in the spiritual community, which I really love, because then he's able to see things from a more spiritual perspective and how it opens and blossoms us up, certain drugs. And we had some really great little pre-conversation before we actually started recording. I know Koby because I owned the Zenden, which was a spiritual co-working space, and we had all sorts of fun events, and we did a tantra class. It was a pink tantra class. Right? Did we get to do palm to palm with each other and look at each other in the eyes and go,
and breathe.
yeah, and continue the eye contact for really long, uncomfortable periods of time.
Right.
Lovely.
So I feel really close to you, Koby.
Oh, good.
Good
Thank
thing
you
you're
so
sitting
much.
next to each other, huh?
Perfect.
So we're going to be talking about all sorts of drugs.
Drugs, okay.
For me, honestly, drugs, I don't see the difference between illegal and legal, because I've seen legal drugs literally destroy a family member's life in my family. Sure. And it came out, it was supposed to be a new painkiller, OxyContin. It was supposed to help and change people's lives. And she was on it for 3 years, longer than anyone should be on it. I think you're only supposed to be on it for like 4 to 6 months, if that. And it literally fried her brain. She lost her mind. She's never been the same. And it's been absolutely devastating. And I was so angry at the time that doctors were prescribing it, that no one really knew what it was. And then all of a sudden it became a street drug. And so I really have a huge disdain for prescription drugs for the most part. I know there is balance to things, right?
There's balance.
And I honestly have a personal disdain just for putting chemicals in my body, because I just have the belief for me that maybe it's because I'm a redhead, I don't know, that I'm super insensitive to chemicals, even ibuprofen PM. And so anything that I feel that lingers in my system and leaves me feeling imbalanced and not feeling quote unquote normal, then I kind of reject it.
Where do you think that feeling came from? Did you have an experience with a Tylenol PM one time?
Yeah.
Or, okay, so help me understand, because I'm like, that came up for some reason, right? So what happened there, if I may ask, that caused you to feel where you are today?
Well, I have observed certain other redheaded genetic people in my family literally be extremely sensitive to chemicals. I noticed that I am sensitive to chemicals because I got prescribed Lortabs, and I remember taking the third one, going to myself, this feels so good, I should hold on to this, and I freaked out and I threw it away. And then I got, dental work. When you get the injections, what are those called? Novocaine? Literally, it doesn't affect me the way that it does for everyone else. So I just know that I am different chemically, sensitively. And I think everyone is. Everyone's body's makeup are so different in how they react to it. And what are your observations, Koby?
Yeah, prescription drugs are, there's a balance between those things. And I think that understanding that, in order to clear a drug, you're not ibuprofen and Prozac deficient per se. And so in order to clear those things, you use nutrients and it affects your body. And so and we know a lot of that data, we've researched it, there's papers on it, stuff like that, but a lot of us don't talk about it that way. So, and the manufacturers of OxyContin obviously sold something to the public that wasn't real, right? And there's consequences to that over time. And sadly, a lot of people's lives have been ruined because of that. And so you're seeing this, and what's hard with drugs, when you say drugs and we try to lump them all in one basket, that's not really a fair assessment of what they are. Because some of them, like levothyroxine, for example, for thyroid, you're replacing something that the body naturally has. It's actually, that chemical is found in your body. And so to me, it's not the same as something that's foreign to your body. So it's like, and plants obviously have a whole myriad of terpenes and cannabinoids and all different things that help with healing and have positive effects on you both emotionally, spiritually, physically, on all the above. And so, where it comes from, does matter. And so, and sometimes, a scientist may take something and say, oh gosh, this property of this plant's really cool. We want to study it. We're going to isolate one thing and then we're going to make a prescription drug out of it. So like, digoxin or lanoxin came from natural sources. Aspirin came from natural sources. And so it's now synthetically made. But the concepts are those things. I would still argue the plant, that there's other things in the plant that we don't fully understand or have mapped out. And so I think medicine, food can be medicine. So it's what we put into our body really does matter. And so having some thought into it. And so if you're going to put something in your body, it would be important, I think, to understand, what your intention. What am I trying? What's the outcome that I want? Why am I putting that in? How long am I going to do it? And why am I doing it? And it's crazy how many people can't answer some of those basic questions. And that's where you start to see harm, because short term, our body's pretty amazing of clearing things and getting rid of things. And so it's like just recognizing that there's a play for different things, and to lump them all into one box, like heroin and meth, I don't really think have a great purpose. I don't see anybody thriving on those.
Yeah, they just get completely fucked up and sores on their bodies.
Right, and so, but when you say drugs and people see that, and that's oftentimes what they have seen, and then they lump other things like, psilocybin or ketamine or, other substances, and you put them all in one box. It's just, there should be a gradient or a more understanding.
Okay. Well, in
Where
my
you
reality,
get your drug dealer grading out. Okay, where do I want to be on this gradient, right? No, but I think, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Heather, you bring up such a great point, is because when I hypothetically tell somebody that, I've tried some ketamine or marijuana or psilocybin, and I'm like, yeah, I've used hypothetically drugs, and they just instantly, they have this thought, this perception, what I've seen in them. And if they've not used or tried before, whatever they've seen in the media, from other friends, social media, all the things that have just clouded and filtered, they have just that thought like, oh, you use drugs, hypothetically.
But guess what? You get a prescription drug, you are using drugs.
Yeah.
It is drugs, too.
And just like with I mean, there's all these documentaries out about the OxyContin, how the makers of it knew what they were doing, and it was all about money. And and I like what Koby said is there should be a line like, drugs, okay, but on the gradient, find where you are. Like, I'm an abuser of drugs, whether it's prescription or found on the street. That it's an abuse, one way or the other. Sure. So yeah.
And I think there's a time and a place. I think prescription medicine does save lives. And so if somebody's having a psychotic break and needs to
lithium,
get some balance, then yeah,
that they use.
A whole myriad of things. But I think sometimes people need help or interventions. And again, the long-term goal should be to teach somebody how to make a lifestyle change, to eat the food they need, or to put in their body what they need so that they can indeed heal. And so,
people are not consciously on a daily basis healing their bodies intentionally with certain foods and things that they're putting into their bodies. And then that's when drugs need to come into play, or some form of alternative healing therapy that brings your body back to balance.
Right. And I think that a lot of that's just education. So it's just, there's a huge need to educate people on what things do, because, prescription meds cause nutrient deficiencies.
And side effects, which
requires
more drugs.
Some of the side effects are from those nutrient deficiencies. And so if I've got, if it causes me a B12 deficiency because I'm taking something, well, then I now need more of that. And so my nutritional demand has gone up. And so you have to compensate for that. So it's just looking at the bigger picture and pulling back and saying, does that? And that doesn't happen day one. That happens maybe a year down the road. And that's a lot harder for us as humans to see what is the full effect of this chemical or
And how does
or
it affect
plant
my
either
body?
ways.
Because
That
like you
is
said,
correct.
everybody is so different.
Right. Genetically, you're unique. The food you eat's unique. What's happening inside your digestive tract with all these bacteria is unique. And there's tons of research going in that space. And so there's all this stuff, body chemistry that's going on. And you can't always predict what's going to happen when you add a substance into somebody's life. And so natural or otherwise, sometimes people don't respond well to things, right? And it's, if you don't understand what you're doing or intentions, and a lot of that is having somebody that's educated that walks you through those things.
Right.
And so,
In my world, I have categorized, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but for me and Heather's world, I see any drug that is grown by Mother Earth, that is in its pure form, as good. And then I see anything turned to chemical or is a chemical, bad. And that's how I determine what I put into my mouth and what kind of experience I want to have. So I have experienced psilocybin, mushrooms. I call them my little friends because I feel like they're just beautiful healers and they're a beautiful gift from Mother Earth. And I see people healing beautifully on it when used appropriately. I mean, we were just talking about this before we started recording, that a lot of people love the effects of it, but then start overusing it. And then it becomes ineffective. And then it becomes a, I guess, quote unquote, addiction or a need.
Right.
And then that's the same with marijuana. I think marijuana is a beautiful thing. You know, here's a really great example. When I was an active member of the LDS Church, I was working my ass off going from 6 until maybe 10 and being a single mom and had a nanny and all of this stuff. And I could not at this point, I didn't realize that I had a parasympathetic nervous system. Right. And I was in the most heightened, I was in the most heightened state of fight or flight. I could not slow my body down. I could not unwind my body. And I literally was just like this. And then I'd wake up and I was like this. And then I'd lay down and I'm like this. And so I created a cocktail of stuff that was okay according to certain judgments and terms and belief systems. And it was ibuprofen, and I think it was 3 ibuprofens, and then a half a thing of Benadryl. And I would take it at night, and it would literally just knock me out. It was able to like somehow release my muscles because I took a muscle relaxer one time, and that fucked me up. But I realized that I could do. You know what? I have replaced that with marijuana occasionally, and that is healthier and better for me and for my system. And I feel like it's a beautiful way to use that rather than putting a chemical in my body.
Right. And you see marijuana used to even replace opioids, and there's great research on that, and yet you do see people abuse it too. So especially kids, I see a lot of kids that are smoking 6 times a day and vaping.
Oh, that's horrible.
And that's not a natural form. Like
No.
it's heavily processed. It has effects on the lungs. So it's just helping people understand where do those things fit and how do you get that in a way that is helpful
And balanced.
And so, but a lot of it is there's so much judgment that it's really hard. Sometimes people hide things or don't talk about things and can't openly have discussions. And that is what needs more of,
Yes.
is that you're
Open
having
discussions.
open discussions about, what is this and how is it looking? And there is a lot of research, but it's difficult because research can kind of there's bias. And so you get people that on both sides. And so you've got to tease through that, look through the data and come up with how are we going to use these substances responsibly and in a way that actually leads to wellness and health.
Right. And that is why I'm having this podcast so we can actually talk about it, because no one does. And when you bring it up, everyone's like, and then some people want to share, some people don't. And so it's just so convoluted. Beverly, what were you going to say?
So me going back to you saying what works for you is natural is good, not natural is bad. And so, but again, I feel like, does that come from maybe some of your religious upbringing and that Kool-Aid that you were forced to drink when you had no idea? Because you had mentioned you took the Loratab with dental work. How old were you when that happened?
28, 29.
And so, and having this, like, I'm not going to say euphoric, but just like, oh, that feels really good. I can't have that.
I felt amazing. I was like,
I can't have that.
No, the thought was, I feel so good. I'm going to save this for when I really want it. And I was like, not for painkillers. I was like, fuck. It was that second part of the sentence. I was like, throw it away.
Okay. Is it because, again, it's chemical, because I never would have thought that I would have enjoyed a chemical. And when I hypothetically have tried ketamine, that's a chemical that is made, that's not grown here on Earth. Because I would have, had you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, I enjoy marijuana. That's great. Say I like to go to sleep at night, and it heightens my creativity. I'm a very creative person. My marketing brain never shuts up. And so sometimes it's like writer's block. You get creative block. I'm like, oh, I have no idea what to do. I'm like, I will go visit my garage, hypothetically. No. And then the creativity comes. And so had you have asked me 2 years ago, I would have felt the exact same way. But now experiencing, hypothetically, ketamine and other things, it's like, and you think, again, it's not a quote unquote natural thing, but this with right intentions helps you kind of unlearn and relearn a different way. I've unlearned all of these things, and Ram Dass talks about this. He says, we were put through domestication. We were put through somebody training. When we're kids, we're being taught how to be somebody. So we've picked up all these things from our friends, our parents, our peers, our ancestors, and it's taught me to just let go of that and to start fresh. This is me. This is my life. And yeah, I've learned that, but I'm going to unlearn it, and I'm going to do it the way that I want it. Sure. And so it's things like that have unlocked. Would I ever come across that, and combined with other spiritual training, and like you were talking earlier, breath work, combined with that, I felt it's just this magical experience that I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to have gotten. Like I said, 2 years ago, I would have been like, that's going to be a hard pass for me.
Okay, let's talk about ketamine then.
Let's talk about drugs then, yes.
So ketamine is a disassociative, right? Mm-hmm. It is you've got clinics. So you've got a legal path for somebody to go in traditional systems and get ketamine therapy. And you see people, I've seen a lot of people life change. Now, again, is it a magic pill? No. Does it work for everybody? No. Are there sometimes side effects? Yes, but very minimal. It's very well tolerated. It's being used, it's an anesthetic. It's used in pregnancy and children and animals. Mm-hmm. So it's been around a long time
through prescription world, right?
That's correct.
So there you go. They've merged, and now it's not.
I just want to know,
okay in some instances.
Why is ketamine legal and not LSD?
I think it's just the way.
And why aren't psilocybin legal? That's what
I think you're seeing movement in that. That's right, like you're seeing things. So you look at the documentary on Netflix, like How to Change Your Mind, and it talks about those things, and kind of gives you a little bit of the history of how we got to where it's illegal. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown. And so some of those things, when they're mind altering and they're, super powerful, you have to understand how that fits into the thing. And you do sometimes see, again, if somebody's abusing it and they have ill effect or it affects other people from that choice, and that's where I say like meth, nobody's good on meth. Like, it's not helping anybody.
No one's good on
that.
Them,
and it's not helping anybody around them, right? And so, and if you lump them all into one category and say drugs are all bad,
right?
Then that makes it really difficult to untease those things. Right. But they don't all fit in the same bucket. Mm-hmm. And even how they're used doesn't fit in the same bucket. So ketamine's a powerful thing. So you got severe depression that's not being treated. It has a unique mechanism. It is a dissociative, and it will pull off and allow somebody to see something that they maybe have never seen and feel possibly love. I love to have it paired with breath. I think that it's beautiful if you've got a practitioner that can sit with somebody and then talk with them after, and it is, in a lot of ways, you can say it's like a truth serum because it opens up and makes somebody comfortable to talk about something that they've never talked about. So say that they were raped or they were abused as a child and they can't go to that space. It allows a safe container for you to go to that space, look at it, and open up and talk about it so that the energy can heal and shift and move.
Yeah, I think when we talk about having the right intention, it's all about what's going on in our minds too. And because people have good trips and bad trips, and I don't believe in those. That's what my mind wanted to show me. It needed to show me, was I prepared? Maybe, maybe not. And that's when people go into this quote unquote good or bad. And so I think when Koby talks, we're talking about intention. It's, what am I dealing with? Is there something that I want to clear, that I'm aware of, that I want to clear, I want to become more aware of? And there's been times where I've asked people, and this was before I've had even tried it, hypothetically, and I say, okay, well, how does it work for you? You ask these basic questions: what happens? What can I expect? How long? Et cetera, et cetera. But then I've seen people just take whatever, and it's like, oh man, I have no idea who you are. I have no idea how you react to anything or what. And we don't really know what people are walking around with, carrying on their brain. So I think that's a huge thing, being able to again get guided through that. But I think that there's just so much good that can come from it again, but not abusing things. But that comes with everything, and we could abuse anything and everything we want.
It's not something that I think you need to do every day.
Yeah.
So I think there's a time and place, right? And ketamine's really powerful as for pain. So, and its mechanism is unique. And so it can often be paired with other substances to kind of get, it seems to mirror nice with some other things because its mechanism is so unique. So it's an NMDA receptor blocker, but it helps with neuroplasticity. So meaning it can shift and change the brain and rewire or help rewire. I think the description the best is Dr. Allen, who has a ketamine clinic here in town, described it, and I like this description because he says, if you think about your brain as a snow globe and you shake it, so ketamine helps to shake it and activate the brain, then as the snow falls back down in the snow globe, you get to rewire some of your miswired things. So if you're completely stuck in life because you haven't been able to deal with some trauma, that it allows an opportunity for you to look at it and rewire it and find purpose in that. If you can find purpose and move it along and open you up to talk about it, then that's a huge thing. So you see a vet who has PTSD and they do a couple of sessions and they go back to life and get a job and start interacting with their family, and well, that's a beautiful thing to see. And that's something that I don't see, I have seen healing with, say, Prozac, but it's a lot longer path. And sometimes there's side effects and sometimes it doesn't work. And so you've got people that are severely depressed that have tried lots and lots of things and it's not really working. So
I've seen psilocybin do the same though.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you feel like you need to be dissociative, and step away? And when you say dissociative, what you're saying is it's really kind of like an existential experience because you're stepping outside of this framework and looking in.
Well, that all depends on dose, correct. And so if you use breath, actually, you can actually get somebody to still stay. But a lot of people will describe deeper or heavier doses of ketamine as a near-death experience. So their spirit and body will separate.
I've heard that with combo also. Or what is it?
I don't know.
What is that
so
like
much
stuff
about
that you?
Yeah, combos. Yeah,
I've heard
know
some
as much
people
about
have
that
had
one,
really
but I do
fast
think-
near-death experience that happens within less than 30 minutes.
So, but I think it does allow you to kind of pull away, and so your spirit, you connect with source, and so that allows you to feel and identify purpose. And for me, that's a really because I'm a pharmacy, right, and I have that legal path it's a way for people to kind of experience that, and so. And you do see a lot of practitioners moving into that space, and I talk with a lot of providers about how to use it, what's its purpose, when is somebody going to experience that, and mapping that out. And so I do love the conversation. Me personally, right? I did a ketamine dive, and I felt more love and more clarity than I have ever felt in any way, shape, or form. And I was in a bad shape. I was very depressed. I was not happy with where my life was, and I couldn't get unstuck. I couldn't seem to do that. And I was on antidepressants, and at one time I had 6 doctors and 9 prescription meds. Wow. And ultimately I said, I don't think this is working. I'm still not sleeping. It was 9 years ago. And that's what really shifted the way that I looked at food and nutrients and things. Is I kept going to the doctors, and I just wasn't getting well. I was stuck. And so ultimately it's like I had abuse and trauma as a kid, and I needed something to help me look at those things and open those memories and go back and reprocess that and find purpose. So now that I've got purpose, I'm like, oh, I can talk about this. I can educate people. I can help other people heal.
Do you feel like you need to do ketamine more often? To maintain that state?
Not necessarily, no. I think once you get clarity and clearing, I don't think necessarily, no. I don't think you have to. I think some people do.
I think that might be the precipice where people's like, that helped me get to this place, and I need to keep on taking it to keep me at this place. But that's not necessarily the case.
I don't
is
think
it?
so. Not at all.
Because what he said, and I so wholeheartedly agree with this, there's a huge spiritual aspect to all of this, is those shadows that we have in our brains. Everybody has trauma, and our traumas are our own, and they all come from childhood. Our parents fucked us up. Our experiences, our friends, our peers, they fucked us up.
We love you all.
Yeah, we love you, but you fucked us up. And that is all of us. And then they tell us to sit still in a classroom for 6 hours, don't talk to your neighbors, look at the teacher and focus and listen and don't say anything. And it's like, how the hell are we even functioning? No one told us how to curate these relationships. And so we've carried all these monkeys on our back for years, decades. And then something like ketamine, you come in, and whether you are ready for it or not, whether you are comfortable or not, there's some shit going to come out of your brain, and you're able to step out and look at it and say, oh, and find a purpose. And so the purpose for me is, how can I, again, just like Koby said, is learn from it, let it go. It's not helping me to hold on to it. What is helping me is to learn from it and move forward. How can I help other people? How can I tell other people what I went through as a child? Because they too are probably stuck. There is somebody out there. There are handfuls and loads of people who went through pretty much exactly what I went through that I could help.
So I have a thought I'd like to share.
Yes, please do. Interject on your own podcast. Unheard of.
You're allowed.
Thank you, Koby.
Yeah. I have no authority.
I find that with psilocybin, so you were talking about everything external from you, right? And I have been really diving into the practice of going within the last couple of years. And I find that whatever's going within is what we're perceiving outside, right? And so you're saying everyone's fucked you up and that we're not allowed to create a relationship with anyone and we don't know how to. And that's because at the crux of it, we are the ones that are fucking ourselves up, and we're the ones that are not creating that deep, beautiful relationship with ourselves.
Because we were never taught to. Again,
exactly.
It goes back to that.
And
everyone sit there. And
that's what drugs is doing, is getting us back connected to ourselves. And I find psilocybin gets me extremely heart-centered. I feel such loving, beautiful thoughts for all things and everyone, no matter if they're backstabbing me at the present moment. Like, for example, I knew my ex-boyfriend was totally cheating on me. I saw it so clearly. I felt it so clearly. And I was like, I love you.
Yeah, show loving kindness regardless of what's going on. That's what it is.
And from a chemical perspective, psilocybin releases neurotransmitters. And so you get a hit of several of those things, happy hormones, and it puts you into a state. And two, when you look at brain scans and things that it's doing to the brain, it activates the brain in a way that, again, allows for reforming of patterns. And so it can be very, my understanding of it all is it's a very healing process. And there's a lot that, you go in. And I do think, the fact, it's certainly arguments to be made that it's Mother Nature. Like it's
connecting us to Mother Earth, who is our mother.
And so connecting with it and you do see that it has a healing property. And there's a lot of research. So you look at some of the research being done, like maps and things like that, where they're studying these chemicals and they're using them in, really sick people. And so you've got clinical research, and you're seeing like Colorado legalizing it and Oregon legalizing it. And so you're seeing states starting to move in the way that marijuana was. And some would say, that's, again, the unknown is scary. It causes fear. So as somebody doesn't know, but I would encourage you to, ask questions. Let's talk about it. Let's do. And it's and at the end, what matters a lot is really the person that helps, the facilitation of that. It's like having the conversation, the psychotherapy and the conversations, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be a trained professional, although sometimes that's needed, I think, depending on what somebody's dealing with. But that creates an environment for you to actually process. Because you do see people go and they just blast off like a rave. They go and they just take whatever and they throw their, all their pills in a bowl, and you take a handful. You have no idea what you're taking.
Sounds so scary.
That is so scary, right? And you go on this
Scares
trip
the shit out of me.
and you're like, why would you want to do that? Like,
right. And I'd like to share.
What's the intention? Yeah.
Okay, so my first rave experience, which might be my one and only, who knows? We'll see. I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible on everything. But I literally felt like I had Beverly's friend Jeff, He's very experienced in partaking of all sorts of quote unquote illegal drugs and how that affects him and how he feels and combining them and all of those different things. So I consulted with him because I really wanted to experience something, but I wanted it to not be wild and balls to the wall and really just see how that felt within me and what this experience was like. And so he was a really great consultant. And it was really lovely because when I was about halfway into this experience, I said to him, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that and I'm experiencing this. Should I take this? He's like, I found that when you do, it actually makes you more like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he would be like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? I'm like, yeah. And it just felt really great though to experience it, but yet to have someone who's knows and experiences and then is there to be like, well, this is what I think, right? Because but then there was these other people that were there too, and they were like, here's this, take this. Oh, have you taken it yet? What's going on? Kind of like almost like predatory like. So it's really nice to.
That wasn't me, by the way.
It was not. Just later.
That's funny.
But yeah, so that's my street experience. That's your clinical controlled
Sure.
experience.
Right.
We were talking about, I brought up When the Impossible Happens by Stanislav Grof, and you've heard of him.
Yeah.
He was a psychiatrist just coming out of psychiatry school in the 60s when LSD was just formulated in the lab, and he did a lot of controlled lab experiments and things and healing modalities and used LSD in a healing way and saw really profound effects on people. And then all of a sudden it became illegal. And he was upset about it. And then he began to set out around the world to go to every country to try all of their psychedelics, natural psychedelics or preferred psychedelics of each country, and writes about taking it and his experiences from a very scientific perspective. So if anyone, and no one really wants to take anything, but you really want to experience it vicariously, read When the Impossible Happens with Stanislav Grof. And then he said, we don't need drugs to achieve these states, right?
Absolutely.
And we started talking about that. He developed the holotropic breath work, and he has a book on it. And he said through breath work, we can achieve and accomplish all of these things, these deep healings, these psychedelic experiences. Like I spent a whole week fasting so I could increase my DMT levels. It was fucking amazing. I don't need to take anything. I can just naturally increase my own DMT levels, right?
Yeah, you make those things. And at the end of the day, that's body chemistry, right? So if you need serotonin, there's 13 things you need to make that. You need an amino acid, and you need B12 and B6 and vitamin C and magnesium and iron and all those things that you need to go down that pathway. And ultimately, you can make, melatonin and it goes to DMT. So you go down the pathway, and if it's supported, but you have to be eating the right stuff. So if I'm eating Pop-Tarts and Ho-Hos and Coca-Cola, I'm not getting what I need. I'm not getting the parts that I need. And sadly, a lot of those things trick your body into thinking that you got something because they hit neurotransmitters as well. So they temporarily release it so you feel better in the moment, but then you crash on the back end. And so you have that sugar rush. Sugar hits several neurotransmitters. And so it's powerful because a lot of us chase those things. So it's understanding that food is medicine. And if you can get the parts in and get your gut working and get digestion moving, then yeah, you can do all of that. And you can use breath to activate all kinds of things. It's really powerful. I've been doing certification in a breath thing in 90 breath is what it's called. And it's phenomenal where that thing can take you. And it's all breath. It's all natural. It's all, and the body knows how to heal. And so even sometimes people can have really quote unquote a trip or a hard experience, but everyone I talk to afterward is like, in the moment you think, oh my gosh, what is that person processing? As you're watching them breathe and you think they're moving and breathing and you think, what's going on here? And then they come out and they're like, that was the most beautiful experience. And so the body is quite amazing at healing and breath and just connecting and grounding and things. And people say, well, yeah, that's woo-woo or there's no science. There's tons.
Yeah.
Go look up the science on the breath and grounding.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Lots.
It's such a really beautiful resource that we're not tapping into. Although I would like to say that I find that for a lot of people, we're in such a heightened state of fight or flight, right? Our parasympathetic nervous system is just like, and going like this the entire time that we don't know how to like slow it down, shut it down.
Right.
And so we really do need to get into a conscious daily practice of breath work
Right.
to be able to at least break that barrier of stepping deeper into our practice, right? But I find some people use drugs to help them get to that faster and to step into that state faster. And that might not be bad and that might not be good. It is, I guess,
Right.
it just depends on the situation and the person
And the intentions and where you're at and what you're ready for. And I think those things matter. And breath, mouth breathers are sick. They are sick people. And it's because when you breathe through your mouth, you are activating fight or flight. If you watch an animal or you watch a horse and they go into fight or flight and freeze, right? It either freezes, it starts to fight, or it flees. And so, and oftentimes that all activates things. It makes them go poo, it makes them go pee, it makes them, you watch their ears, you watch their eyes. It changes the way they are. And we go into fight or flight all the time when we're in that state, and people will stop breathing. So I'm scared, I lock up, quit, I don't move my air. Or I start breathing rapidly through my mouth, hyperventilating, panic. And if you do that, even just doing it will activate the sympathetic system versus breathing through your nose, activates nitric oxides, causes vasodilation. And then you see calmness, and you can see that if you can breathe, right, you can put yourself into a calm state. You can disrupt the panic by breath. And that's the part that people don't realize, that they do have control of their bodily functions. But it's just education. It's just talking about it and helping people understand they have a lot more ability to shift and change their mental, physical states with breath.
Well, but also same with breath, with clearing things off their mind, because you guys said it, like, we don't need any outside influence to clear off the shadows, the traumas, the hurts that we've gone through. Sometimes it helps. Therapy helps, and all these different things help. But there's been such a stigma on therapy, on drugs, quote unquote, just all drugs in general. And, I know somebody who takes a handful of prescription medications in the morning. And I'm thinking, and I talked to this really awesome new chiropractor, Dr. Shane Harada, there's your free plug, about we need to assess why we're taking them. We're taking this because why? Let's look at the lifestyle.
Yeah, what are we trying to achieve?
What are we? And that we touched on this very beginning. What's the lifestyle change we can do here? So going back to one of your questions was, do we need to continue taking drugs? No, not on a prolonged basis. But with that said, something's going to happen within me. I'm going to have a hard day, or something's going to get triggered from a memory I had 1,000,000 years ago, a trauma that I experienced. And I'm like, oh, I might need to go to a therapy, self-medicate, prescription drugs or non-prescription drugs, and I like the snow globe idea, shake up that snow globe and get these thoughts, that energy flowing out of me so I can become more connected. And so I feel like it's just one big envelope of things. They just keep folding into each other on every different level. And of course, abusing anything is just not you're not going to have a good outcome if you abuse anything.
Well, and people are abusing sugar, right?
Food,
all
food,
over the
medicine,
place.
but not medicine.
Sure. And we look at those things, nicotine. You look at and people, alcohol. Like, people pick things, and it's interesting, I think, of what's legal and what's not legal.
Yeah, why? That's why I just don't understand either. It just pisses me off.
My favorite thing is that Netflix, How to Change Your Mind, goes into the history of it, and you can kind of see like how, in the say no to drugs kind of that thing of my generation when I went through, that was a big thing. And it's like, and they basically put
And stranger
everything
danger.
in the same pot and in the same, container. And so,
But then they say prescription's good, but say no to drugs.
And that's
and
the
that's the
pot
thing.
that they're
And
in.
it's all the same.
And that's what's really crazy is, you watch, I used to work in a retail setting, and I dispense a lot of OxyContin. And over time, initially when I went through, I drank the Kool-Aid. Like, they're telling you that this is not addictive, this is helpful, this is healing. And then you just saw people's lives fall apart and
Get fucked up.
They're getting divorced, and they're all sick, and
Changes their
and they still have
personality.
tons of pain, and they can't communicate with anybody, and they're lethargic. And then, I've been robbed 3 times for it. So here I am at gunpoint giving people this thing that I'm thinking,
Supposed to be
what
good.
are we doing here? And then, and so, as I leave and start my own pharmacy, and I'm thinking, I don't love that drug. So I want to talk to people about it. In fact, the first 3 years we were open, we didn't even carry it. And so we're like, I just don't want to do it.
Feel good about
and
it.
now, you know, it's such a hard thing because it's like when somebody has a knee surgery, they need something for pain. And so, but I think that talking about the different modalities, because I do think, you know, CBD has got some really positive benefits for healing and inflammation. Fish oil, vitamin D, all help with pain. But those mainstream things even that aren't talked about in the same way that you get with oxycodone. And it's like there's this thing where people just feel like they need it. And I'm like, there is other things you can do, amino acids, but to help with pain, there's tons, magnesium. So there's so much stuff there that it's just your body, it's supporting your body's natural ability to make endorphins. And so it's just how do you activate those things and encourage that kind of healing? And recognizing that if I do take a pain pill, I want to be able to get off of it, and I don't want to be stuck on it, and I want to go back to living a more healthy life.
Okay. I love that. Thank you for sharing this. So we have about 5 more minutes left, and I'm just really curious, what is your favorite drug experience?
I'm going to divert to Koby for right now. Let me filter through my such limited experiences, hypothetically.
Well, for me, ketamine changed my life. So I really was in a very depressed state, and I wasn't moving through. I'd been in therapy for years and years and years. So I was abused as a kid, and abused in really horrible ways from a loved one. So, and that trauma made me not trust myself and not trust pretty much men in general. So I've gone through my life with a filter and a lens and a block, and it's taken me, you know, talk therapy helped, but it didn't actually help me let it really get away. And honestly, like the ketamine experiences I have and the breath that I've done and a little bit of CBD cannabis, I'm sensitive. I don't necessarily want to go blast off into the universe. I would rather come inward and look at ways to heal or shift those things. And so breath for me is amazing. I've meditated for 5 years, probably twice a day, pretty consistently. And that practice has really helped me clear these things on a daily basis.
I love
and
that.
So, and ketamine was kind of a hack. Like it kind of cheat code. It pushed me into something probably that I don't know if I probably would have gotten there, but it made it go faster.
Which
for
is
sure.
great.
Which, you know, and some say, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, that was horrible or a trip. And I think sometimes the dark thing is that something's coming through that's just really heavy and hard. And and especially if in abuse where you've blocked the memory and you don't remember it, and then something's coming through that you think, I'm making this up, I'm hallucinating, what is this thing? And that's the part that I think is really interesting. And that's where the therapy piece or having somebody that can guide you through that or talk about it, even if it's a close friend. But the communication piece is key to allowing for that to shift and heal.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Beverly.
Oh, it's my turn. I'm hoping you forgot about me. I very much am with Koby here. I agree. I enjoy ketamine not only in a party setting, hypothetically, but also as a healing. Because I too had, again, like I said, we've all got our traumas. I too had a very young childhood sexual trauma, and not many people, if any, know about that. So, and thinking about that, it's able to allow me to think about it, but I know I'm safe now. This happened in the past. That's not what's happening right now. I can try to access those feelings and thoughts and go through them in a calm setting, and in my way, I'm able to just get to it. And I know I need to get to it, whether I want to or not, doesn't matter. I'm going to get to it. So I can just move it along and find the positive in it. So ketamine's helped me with that. Of course, I enjoy cannabis. It too helps me sleep. You just get to unwind for the night. You know, we're all busy people, and just getting to just lay there and just, nope, I'm home. I'm safe. Everybody's in bed. Now it's my turn. So that's me.
My favorite drug experience was with psilocybin, the mushrooms. They're my little friends, as I call them. I've done a couple of hero doses, and and I don't feel like I need to do that anymore per se, but it has really honed me in on my higher self and source and my beautiful connection with Mother Earth.
And the very first time I took it, I could see the universe. I could see love. I could see all of these working, playing parts. And it got me so connected to my I am statements. And those are such simple things that we overlook. I am light. I am love. I am powerful. I am creative. And those things really connect us even more deeper to source and to light and to each other, because we are like mushrooms, guys. We are all energetically interconnected to each other. And when someone feels something so strongly, you're sending out that frequency to the other person. That person picks it up unconsciously, or sometimes it could be conscious. And so that's what I love about mushrooms and my experience with it. And I just want to thank you guys so much for coming here, to being very open-minded, very open, and to share honestly and openly, so we can hopefully encourage more conversation amongst people without judgment, without closing down, shutting off, and being more open-minded to these things, and stop, pretending it's not happening around us.
Yeah, a little curiosity.
Yeah, good curiosity. Any other final thoughts?
No, thanks for having me
Thanks
here.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Koby, did I mention that you're with the Fusion Pharmacy? You own it.
I own Fusion Specialty Pharmacy and Fusion Pharmacy in town. So yes, we ship to 33 states and we customize medicine.
Fabulous. Thanks for joining me today, you guys.
Have a good day.
We might do another drug one. We'll just see. I hope you guys are stimulated. Share away.
Okay.
Stimulation.
Share with everyone.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the I Drink the Kool-Aid podcast. Join us next time. If you'd like to participate in this discussion, get a hold of us at idrinkthekoolaidpodcast@gmail.com. Now let me ask you, what flavor of Kool-Aid are you drinking?
This has been a production from a podcast studio.